Today, I'm finally doing a video on a car I've wanted to drive on this channel for a very long time. So without further ado, today we're going to be checking out the 2025 NX 450h Plus, the plug-in hybrid NX. And big shout out to the new owner of this car, who not only let me do this video and drive it on the streets today, but also asked for it. So you know who you are, and thank you very much. Let's get into driving. So as I'm getting set up here, every once in a while, I get taught something from our Lexus guests about a feature that I didn't know about or how to do something that I didn't know how to do. And that's exactly the case with this car. So the owner of this car, who's picking it up in a few days, messaged me saying, hey, it would be cool if you could demonstrate the My Room mode on the Lexus. And in my head, I thought, I've never heard of that mode before. Let me do some research. So it turns out, and I didn't know it was called that, but I did know it existed, is when your car is plugged in. So being that it's the NX plug-in version, when you get in and you turn on the accessory mode of the car or the on position, the screen will say, hey, do you want to use the plug-in electricity to power things like climate control and accessories? And if you hit yes, this is called the My Room mode. And right now it's using the power from the wall to power things like the climate control, the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, and it even gives you an idea of how much that is draining. So for right now, it's saying charging may take longer because of power consumption. At some point, even if you had everything on, you can get to a point where you're actually using a bigger draw than the battery's charging. So it tells you all that from the screen here. It is really cool, and it would be good in a case of like, you know, if you were plugged in at home or maybe waiting in the car at somewhere, I don't know, maybe waiting for a friend and you're plugged in, and you could still power everything by just using that plug-in power. So while we're sitting here plugged in, there is a few more things I'll talk about. One of them is the charging schedule. So since a lot of people are gonna just plug in their car overnight and let it stay charged, you can actually set up a charging schedule. And to do that, you can just add, you can do a start time, or if you really wanted to, you could set a departure time. Meaning if you knew that you had to leave for work at 7 a.m. in the morning, instead of having the car constantly charging the whole night, the car will kick on, as long as it's plugged in obviously, and charge just enough to be 100% by that 7 a.m. mark. And you can schedule that for different days of the week as well. So that way you're not constantly just feeding power into the battery. It's kind of like just doing just the right amount. Also, when you're in the energy flow screen, you can see that power coming into the car and how much it is as well. So power balance shows you if the accessories you have on are taking up more than what you're charging. Charging schedule is something you can do to schedule your charge. And then energy flow shows that you're actually doing it. And this is all while we're just kind of in the off mode, like we're not actually running the car right now. Okay, so let's go for a drive. As I mentioned, usually I don't get to drive these cars because they're usually custom order. So usually you would have to order one of these, wait, 6 to 12 months for it, and then by the time it gets here, it's sold. So I haven't had the pleasure to do so. Most of the operation is gonna be similar to any NX video that I've done in the past. So for instance, the shifter is that new electronic shifter, so we're just gonna put it into drive. And I'm also gonna make sure it's in EV mode, which it probably is, mainly because already this car just came off the truck, so it is empty. It's saying refuel, but we're gonna be in EV mode for the most part here. And I did notice when I was warming it up that in EV mode, the heater and the heated seats and stuff like that seem to be more like when you're in eco mode. So not quite super hot, obviously just trying to make the most of the efficiency of that electric motor. So there is a couple buttons in the center to play with here. They're not a perfect science in terms of like, the car still thinks it knows best, which let's be honest, it definitely knows best. So I have it in EV mode right now, but the gas engine is still on, probably because of the temperature outside. And when I go to HV mode, which is hybrid vehicle mode, EV mode or auto EV, and auto HV mode, I know there's a lot of just letters there, it still has that gas engine on right now. And again, I think it just has something to do with the fact that it's so cold out. So we'll probably hear it kick off. I can still tell it's definitely the electric that's powering everything right now. And I even have it up on the screen to show us that. And the power is good. Okay, so when you have the energy flow part on your screen, you'll see sort of like an animation of where the power is going and where it's coming from. So for right now, it's showing in the green. I can clearly see that all of the power is coming from the battery to the front electric motor. When I let off the gas, it turns blue, and we now see the power coming from those wheels into the battery, and it's showing all 4 wheels. If I were to step on it, which I'm gonna do, it even kicks on the rear. It kicked on the rear power as well, just for a split second there. And by the way, and I'm gonna do a harder launch or like a little bit more of an acceleration in a few minutes here. I can already tell that the thing about a plug-in hybrid is, yes, the range and being able to plug in every night and then just use mostly, electric motors for like most of the driving, especially if you have a commute that's like, 50 kilometers to where you're going. That part is super efficient. For me, it's actually the driving experience that I like. So for instance, when I press on the gas, I don't feel any vibrate, like if the gas engine is off and it's just the electric motor running, I don't feel any vibrations or no extra noises or anything like that. It's just like a seamless spaceship accelerating. That's quite calming to me. I find it very relaxing, I guess you could say. A friend of mine from Lexus Canada even mentioned with like full electric vehicles is people say that the audio from the speaker sounds better because of the lack of those extra moving parts and the vibrations and stuff that you normally get with driving a car. And to me, having a plug-in hybrid also gives you that, which is quite nice. So that's just one thing. Also, I do notice the layout of the screen is a little bit different from the NX hybrid I'm driving right now. It shows the EV range as well as the gas range. So I'm in the refuel section of the gas engine right now. But in the EV range, it says I still have at least 37 kilometers till I run out of juice there. On the left side, we also see it's almost like a fuel gauge, but for the battery. So we see that it's all the way to the top. I'm seeing that on my animation to the right anyway. And then again, there's a fuel gauge to the right of the screen. So the layout there is a little bit different. I also noticed when the front cross traffic came on, it had a little bit different animation than my NXH. Sometimes we see variances like from, for instance, wherever, if the NX is made in Japan or made in Canada, sometimes just little messages here and there might just look a little bit different, but they still do the same thing, and that's probably the case with this one. Now, this is the executive package. So we have a lot of extra features here. One of them is bird's eye view. We also have heads-up display, and we even have a button to park. And perhaps I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. That is one of the benefits of going up to this package. Things like the panel roof is also nice too, which is why it's so bright in here right now. And this particular spec is the Nori Green on Palomino. And what I'm finding is when I first came to Lexus back in, I guess it was like 2018, red interiors was all the rage and that's all everybody ever wanted. But now Palomino has become sort of like one of the more asked about interiors. Same with macadamia, which is like it's almost like an off-white. So these brighter interiors, instead of like those darker rich ones, is starting to become a little bit of a trend at the dealership, especially with, one of those unique exteriors like the Nori Green or some of our blues that we have, stuff like that. Okay, so while I'm driving, I might as well demonstrate proactive driving assist, since I don't get to demonstrate that quite often. So proactive driving assist is that bubble around the car that's going to give you a little bit extra safety. So right now we're driving in the city, meaning there's lots of, there's a car in front of me right now. This car is coming from different angles, etc. And for the car in front of me, I want my car to be able to know it's there instead of just relying on me. Because maybe I'm talking to a GoPro and I'm not paying attention, or maybe I see a cute golden doodle walking down the street. And having proactive driving assist on means the car will recognize the distance between me and the Toyota Camry in front of me, and it could actually apply the brakes, etc. And that's what I'm feeling right now, is the car in front of me is braking. I'm going to just sort of like decelerate, and the NX will just keep me a safe distance away from it. In fact, it'll even bring it right to a stop if I wanted to. In a case that it actually needed to really stop you from hitting something, I mean, that's where it's really gonna shine. Okay, we're getting on the highway, so I'm just gonna accelerate a little briskly here. Okay, it's not crazy like the acceleration when you're in this mode. That could be because of us being low on fuel. I did hear a little bit of that electric motor like noise. I don't know the name for it, but really smooth acceleration. Again, right now we're going 100 kilometers an hour. The gas engine is not on at all. There's not really any vibration because, you know, we're not using an internal combustion engine. So it's just the electric motor right now. Super smooth. It's sitting comfortably at just over 100 kilometers an hour. I set the adaptive cruise control, and this one has the intelligent steering wheel control. So that means they're customizable, and I can see on my heads-up display what they do. So if I wanted to slow down and go up, I just sort of press what it says on that heads-up display, which, by the way, is a very crisp color heads-up display. I'm driving into the sun right now, and I can still see it really, really crisp. I see the greens, I see the blues, I see the white lettering. And if I wanted to, let's say, not have radar cruise, let's say I wanted to just have regular cruise, I can change the mode of that here from adaptive to just cruise control. Of course, adaptive is the way to go. I would always recommend using adaptive cruise control because just like the proactive drive assist, it's gonna keep that nice safe distance around. Now, another feature I wanna demonstrate is we're gonna have the car change lanes for us. So what I'm gonna do, I have cruise control on. I'm gonna half click to the right in this case. It's gonna say check surroundings, and the car will switch lanes for us. So what it's doing is it's using that blind spot monitor, it's using the adaptive cruise control, the lane centering assist, all of the features all in one, and very safely moving us into a different lane. I've had it kick in where I tried to do it, and then it just beeps loud at you and is like, no, there's someone there, and it'll keep you safe. I know it sounds like a silly thing because like how much effort is it to switch lanes? But when you're in heavy traffic for a long period of time, it's kind of nice just to like, boop, just press a little button and have the car switch lanes for you essentially. So I do really like that feature. I use it all the time in my NX, and I definitely recommend as you get familiar with your new car to try it out. Same with the radar cruise control, same with, you know, any of those extra safety features. It's just cool, and the car has it, so as you get used to it, it's good to use. Okay, so now we're on like a little bit more of a country road, so it's a little bumpier, but the NX 450h Plus is just super smooth. I do wonder if the extra weight from that EV battery just creates like a little bit more planted of a car. It's not like the regular NX is rough in any means. In fact, it's quite comfortable as well, but this one just seems a little bit more solid. So that's an interesting thing. Also, I will mention the fact that we've been in EV almost this whole time, and I don't hear a ton of wind noise. I don't hear, like, we're driving right beside a highway right now. I don't hear like the cars on the highway super loud. So maybe some extra insulation materials is in this thing. I'm not too sure, but it is really, really quiet in here, even with that EV motor going. Roadside assist is another feature that I forget to talk about in like the showroom style videos. So right now we're in an 80 kilometer an hour zone, and my car is telling me in two spots, it's telling me on my heads-up display, maximum 80, and on my dash. And as we get into a 60 kilometer zone, which I'm just crossing into, it switches almost instantly. As I cross into the 60 kilometer zone, that sign both on the dash and the heads-up display switches to 60. And if I go over 60, let's see, if I go 61, if I go 62, it turns red. So another great visual reminder that I should slow down, like I'm speeding a little bit. I've had this happen where I was using Google Maps recently, sort of in the country, and I was on my way to the airport, and Google Maps told me I could go 80 here, and my car was saying, no, it's actually a 60. And I looked, and it was actually a 60. So the fact that it actually reads the signs, like it uses a camera and a sensor to read the actual signs, is more accurate than trusting something like Google Maps. Now the downside is if that sign is covered in snow, then it doesn't read it. And I've seen that before where the 80 zone ended, but the car didn't know that because it didn't see the zone. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to try the park assist function. However, the lines are a little hard to read today, so I'm gonna see if it picks them up. So all I did was I pressed the park assist button, and the car sort of scanned for some parking spots. And then now it gives me like an idea of it. Now, there's a lot of snow, and we're kind of just simulating this because it's not actually picking up perfectly. But just for the video, let's try it. So we're gonna hit start. we're letting go. So the car is doing its thing. It also turns on the signal so that people around us know that we're parking. You can see that steering wheel moving around, and on the animations, it'll also help you understand where we're going, how close we're getting, what the car is thinking about, like in terms of obstacles and stuff like that. Again, super fluid. This technology has come such a far way from like the first generations where it took like 20 minutes to park when you would use it. I mean, this one doing a great job. It does slow down towards the end here because it really wants to like make it perfect. And this one is covered in snow. Like we're in a snow covered parking spot right now and it did well. And then it says that we're good and it shows the outside of the car and how we're doing. Okay, so after driving it a little bit, I wanted to get out and admire it, especially in this nori green color. So one of the things about nori green that I like the most is it looks very different depending on the day, kind of similar to some of our blues and some of our reds. When the sun hits it, you see a very rich metallic green. And then when it's in the shade, it looks a lot darker. It's a little bit more of like a forest green. And with the NX, having a little bit of contrast between some of those grays and in this case, the gray in the grille actually has some metallic to it as well. With that triple beam LED headlight system and those frosted daytime running lights, all together looks super amazing. And is one of those cars that like, it looks better in person than on the Lexus website, I find. Also, I should mention, the triple beam high beams is something I don't usually get to showcase, and I can't today because it's still bright out, but in that feature, we have adaptive high beams. And what adaptive high beams are, is imagine your headlights being on, and when a car comes towards you or a person is walking across the street, instead of turning your high beams totally off, all it's gonna do is turn off the light that is crossing paths with that object. So I use my fingers for that and say if a car is coming towards me, probably maybe 2 of my left fingers or maybe all 3 are gonna just go down and I'm still gonna have light towards the right or towards even around the object sometimes. So that is a very underrated feature on that triple beam headlight system is those adaptive high beams. And a lot of people don't get to use it to the maximum effect, so I highly recommend it. Also, I need to point out the wheel. So that wheel with sort of that exposed metal and that darker gray just looks super sharp. These Bridgestones, for being a snowy day, also did a really good job. I recently drove an NX through a snowstorm and I didn't have winter tires, and I usually rock winter tires because I'm a big believer in it. And I was impressed with how well it did. Now, I still recommend winter tires because of stopping distances and stuff like that, but the ones that come on it really held up in a pinch like the other day when I was driving. So there you have it, just a quick overview of the driving experience of an NX 450h. Today we got to stay in full EV mode, meaning that you can drive this in full EV mode. It has really good power, it's a really smooth drive, and can be very useful for best of both worlds. Meaning you can drive it like a hybrid and have range to go all the way from Toronto to Ottawa and back, or you can plug it in every day, put it in that EV mode, and for those short commutes, and if you're gonna charge at work anyways, it does a great job of that world too. Today, I'm gonna go over every button on a Lexus NX 350 with this smartphone gimbal to show you what every button does. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. And a big shout out to Mr. Bernier, who gave me my little Lexus pin that I'm wearing today with this suit. Okay, so as you can see, I have this red NX 350 F-Sport Series 3. So let's just get right into it. So we're gonna start with the door handle because we'll kind of go left to right here. With this new smart handle design, we have a few things. So it's not really a button, but it is a button. We have to the left here, that little dimple that I call it. So that actually locks the car. So when the key is in our pocket, you can just touch it. It'll beep, you'll see a flash, and then it'll unlock. And then to unlock it, we just put our hand sort of in that little crevice there. Let's call it a crevice. And there's actually there's like a little pad in there too. You can't really see it, but you can feel it. There's like a little pad, and that's how you just squeeze that and open the door. Now, there is another little feature. So even though it's not a button, it's a lever. We'll just show that that is the lever to open it if you had a dead battery. And that gets engaged by popping this little cover off with the key. Or maybe don't use the key. I have a video on that. It is a lot easier to use something plastic, but that's how you open it up manually. We'll just open it up and we'll sort of start on this side door. So the first button we'll go over is the handle to get out. So what you do to get out is you just press with your thumb and indent it, and it'll activate the door handle. A lot of times people will go automatically and try to pull it out. You can pull it out. That's like the way to get out if you have a dead battery, but you don't need to. You can just press in with your thumb. So it does take a little bit of getting used to. That's why I always leave this sticker on there for people. Actually, I haven't taken a single one of those off, so that just stays on there all the time, and it's a lot easier to use. Beside that, we have our little control panel here, the little bezel. Each one of these is just a hard press down. So you can kind of see when you press it down for the window, there is a half click and then a full click. So the half click is what's gonna just roll down the window. The full click is that auto feature. So you're just gonna press that. And that's always been a great thing with luxury cars, is being able to just roll down the window just like that, instead of having to hold each one separately. And then the main driver one has a little dimple there as well. Then we have the feature where we lock out all the other people from rolling down their windows. So when the car is on, you just press that. When the light is on, that means the other windows are locked out. So that means your passengers cannot roll down their windows. Then we have unlock and lock. Now lock has the light because, you guessed it, it doesn't make any noise because of the electronic handle. So unlock, no light. Lock has the light. There is no click noise. And there's also no, as you can see here, little thing that goes up and down or a light or anything. So really the only way to tell is on there. Then we have the left and right control for the mirror. And this is how you control the mirror, is this little 4 pad here, this little circle. And when you hit L, it'll be lit up. When you hit R, it'll be lit up. And then we have auto and fold the mirrors. Now, because I have the door open right now and the car off, it won't do that. I always leave it in auto because then the mirrors will fold in when you press lock. And this would just fold them in normally as well. So that's for that little bit. Then we have our memory settings. So to set the memory settings, you just press set and then press the button. I think you can also just hit set and then within a second hit the button. But I usually, when I set them, I usually hold the set and then press the button. So press 1, 2, or 3, and then it'll change the seat, steering wheel, and the side view mirrors all programmed to this. So make sure when you're setting those, you have the seat, the steering wheel, and the side view mirrors all to where you want it to be before pressing those, okay? Let's move to the inside of the car. Okay, so the first buttons as we get into the inside is actually gonna be on the side of the seat, because they're the first ones I can see. So on here, we have forward and backward for the bottom of the seat. So it's always really easy to remember with Lexus because this one is shaped in the same angle as the bottom of the seat. And this button is sort of like the backrest, and that's actually what moves the backrest, as you can see it moving. And then from there, we also have lumbar, and this one just has the 2-way lumbar. So you can tell because it has the little angle, or the little, I'm not gonna call everything a dimple, but it's kind of like a dimple. And that's for the lumbar in and out for your lower back. So the base also goes up and down and forward and back. Backrest is just forward and back, and then the lumbar is just forward and back. Again, keeping with our left to right sort of movements here. So now we have our little dial for our vents. And if you go all the way to the right, you can actually feel a little click. And then if you go all the way to the left, there's another little click. And one side is open. So this is fully open right now. And this is fully closed. And you can feel it click in, and then we just have our up and down there. To the right, we have our odometer and trip, as well as our dimmer switch. And that's really nice because on some cars, it's sort of hidden, like behind the steering wheel, where on this one, it's not. It's actually, right in the open. When you press it, it'll switch between odometer as well as trip, and then up and down for dimmer. Then we have below that gas door. So when you press that, it opens up the gas door. It is on the left side of the vehicle. And then we have the hatch. You can press and hold this to open up your hatch. And this is a lever, I get it, but it's still important to show. So pull this to open up your hood. And I'm just gonna quickly show you where the lever is for your hood. You're gonna look at the front of your beautiful red Lexus. It's sort of lined up with the emblem. So if you see, you can see it's I'm kind of reaching in right above the lever, right above the emblem. And all you do is just run your finger, like if you go like this, just run your finger in, you'll feel it, and then you can lift up as well. And just to give you an idea, that's what that lever looks like. So to show you,
It's lined up with the Lexus emblem, and it's right there, okay? So there you go. Okay, so on the left of the steering wheel, we also have our signals, left and right, and then you'll see this little button here. So this is for the auto high beams. So that's the auto, that's sort of the one-click forward, which is parking lights. Then we have the headlights, or the blue octopus, which a lot of people say. To the right, then we have our fog lights on and off. So off, on, and then there's a little light. So that, when that light is on, that's when the auto high beams are on. So pretty easy there. Okay, so up, down, lights are all on that one. Now for the smart steering wheel. Okay, so with the advanced touch steering wheel, there are some tips and tricks to not only get the most out of it, but also sort of just be able to customize it and that sort of thing. So we'll start on the left. So on the left side, you'll see once you put your thumb on any of the surface area on the steering wheel, it'll light up on the heads-up display. Now, if you sort of keep your thumb to the left or to the right, it'll show you from factory on the left the next or seek buttons for music. The bottom will give you the voice command. And I think if you hold that when you have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it'll even do the voice assistant for that. And then the top is just to get to your phone. So if someone's calling you, you can hit that to make a call, etc. To the right, we have a fixed button. So these are volume up and volume down, which is the same thing. When you put your thumb over it, it'll still show you. And then when you press it, it'll actually press. And actually, it does a little cool animation. It'll just kind of like bounce there. And same with these buttons here. At the bottom of that, we have the different pages. So you could sort of press that to go from page 1, what I call it, to page 2. And on page 2, we still have left and right for previous and seek from factory. We have top for mode. So that's how you can switch from, Sirius XM to FM to AM to whatever you want to do. And then the bottom one would be to turn on and off audio. So you can actually see a little bit of color there. You can actually see green for on, and then that'll go away for off. Now you can hold that little page button, I don't know what else to call it, to delete messages. So like right now the car is off, it's telling me all these different messages. I can clear that screen by holding this, even though those aren't on the heads-up display. So we'll show how to customize this in a few minutes, but over to the right side. So on the right side, we have some other fixed buttons. We have the adaptive cruise control. So that's a super important one to be able to activate your cruise control. And don't forget, this car, along with most of the new Lexus models, you can do that even at like city speeds. And lane tracing assist, which is another feature you should just kind of always have on. I really like that one as well. Then from the factory, we have the following distance setting. And it's not car lengths like a lot of people think. So 4 is in 4 car lengths, 3 is in 3, 2 is in 2. All I could say is even 2 is way more than 2 car lengths. So 4 is a very far distance. And then we have modes. You can turn it so that instead of adaptive cruise control, it's just regular cruise control. So Lexus has made it really easy. If you wanted to use old cruise control, you can still just do that, which is cool. Then if we go to the other page, we can move and adjust this display. So we can adjust the heads up and down, which is great because if you hop in someone's car that's a lot taller than you, it's not going to be lined up properly. But also we can change what we see on the other screen. So what I mean by that is we'll have audio, we'll have navigation, boost gauge. So the boost gauge will show up again, mostly on the main gauge cluster, but some of it's up on the heads up as well. A G-force meter, gear position, a blank one, or fuel consumption, average speed, elapsed time. Those are pretty cool metrics to look at. The eco indicator, which just give you a little graph, and then back to, the driving support, which is like the cruise control and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool to be able to switch them. But we're going to show you how to customize them and make them even better. Okay, so to customize the steering wheel, what we're going to do is click the little gear sign in the bottom left corner. We're going to scroll to Vehicle Customize, which has some cool settings in here. And we're going to scroll down to Steering Switch. I don't know why they called it that here, but that's what we're going to go with. Now, super important message for all Canadians. If you hit Options, you can turn on Winter Gloves mode. So if you're gonna have winter gloves on in your car and you wanna use the advanced touch features, turn that on because it makes it more sensitive. Super important. So let's start with the left side and I'll show you how to customize and my favorite setup for this. So here's the factory layout. It's actually laid out under audio. There's also a climate layout, which gives you things like temperature up and down. You can change the mode of your HVAC system. So if it's blowing on your legs, your face, defrost, etc. Temperature up, down, so you have the modes, and then to the right, you just have the circulation. So if it's coming in the car or out of the car. Or you have custom. So custom is pretty cool. So under custom, now I can actually touch the buttons here and decide what. So I'm gonna change the audio left and right because the other page has that. And for this one, I actually might do, there's some HVAC stuff here. A lot of times I do, let's say I wanna control the fan. So now I can do fan, and now left is down for fan speed, right is up for fan speed. And if I wanted to change the temperature ones, maybe we wanna do it so, I don't know, maybe we can just hit auto. So now we can have fan down, fan up, or auto for climate control, because I use that button sometimes. And now we just need one more. Maybe we'll just put it as actually that's audio mode. Maybe we'll just do it as air outlet mode. So now I have auto, so if I wanna just click that, climate control to be the set temperature that I always leave it at, then I could go, lower and higher for fan speed. And if I decide I wanna like turn on defrost or put on my legs or something, I can do that. So that's gonna be the left side, and I'll show you what that looks like. For the right side, we have the same thing. So right now you have display left, right, heads up display up and down, which is pretty good. It sucks because it is nice having the display left and right. But I found out if you customize it, you can do some really cool ones here. So how I always do it is, and again, to each their own, I like that I can customize to have sport mode on my steering wheel. Then you could have normal mode as the right. So again, you could just go and turn it to normal drive mode. The bottom one, I put it as stop start. I thought that maybe I would use that sometimes, but now I'm actually really used to the stop start system. So I don't know, maybe I would change that in the future. And then the left one I put to the camera view, which I think is really cool. So let me show you what those do now on the steering wheel. Okay, so now that we have the customization on, so let's just look at, so again, we still have on the left side, we still have the next track, the voice command, the phone, that sort of thing. But now we've customized this page to be able to control like our fan speed. So we can crank up the fan speed. It shows us a little animation there. We can turn it down. We can just put it to auto, which is always super easy, where the car is gonna do all the thinking for us climate control wise. And if you override it fan speed, it kicks off the auto. And then we could also just change the outlet mode, which again would kick off the auto. So we can do face, defrost the legs, etc. So that's a cool thing. If you mess around with your climate control a lot, it's really cool to be able to have it on the steering wheel. Over to the right side, so again, we still have those fixed buttons, and because of that, we still have things like following distance and driving assist mode. Those are fixed type buttons on there. But if we go to page 2, now we have our new stuff. So we have a sport mode, which now will change all the gauge and the driving dynamic to be very sporty, make that gas touchy, that sort of thing. And we can go over to normal if we want, which actually I wanted to see, if you double tap sport, it doesn't turn it on and off. So you need the normal there. I have that start and stop at the bottom. Again, I'm used to that technology now, so I probably wouldn't do it. But what I would do is the panel view monitor. I think this is genius to have this on your steering wheel control, because let's say you're in a driving situation where you're getting, you're at a red light and someone's getting close to you and you want to see, just bam, hit that button. If you're in gear, it's going to give you bird's eye view on your big screen, which I think is really cool. So this is how I would customize my setup for the steering wheel controls. Maybe I would change a few things as time goes on and tweak it a little bit, but I think it's really cool that you can customize it. Okay, so I know not everybody loves the steering wheel controls with the heads-up display and the intelligence system there. Give it a try. I promise you it gets better the more you use it. You do have to kind of lay it out the way you want, and those sort of things. You know, to some people that want those physical buttons, it might be tricky to adapt. But I have gotten a lot more used to it, and I do really like it. So make sure you give it a try. Now over to the center. So in the center console, we have, you know, our cup holders and our shifter. But let's zoom in sort of on these little guys here. So one of them is this little terrain button here. And really all that's doing on the screen is turning on that little terrain mode there to the left. And you can see it on and off with the little green light. That's what that one does. And it kind of changes the driving mode to be more focused on that. Then we have the traction control off. And again, we will see on the screen here that it does make it say traction control off. And that you're really only gonna use if you're really stuck in the snow and you want all the power going to your wheels. If not, it is very dangerous to drive like that and it'll kick you out. The auto off feature, you can override and turn it off. So the auto off is what I call it. So that when you're at a red light or a stoplight and your foot's on the brake and you don't like that the engine shuts off, you can override that. Then we have downhill assist. So really good if you're on a mountainous road and you want to save on your brakes a little bit, you do that. It'll keep it in a gear and control it that way. Then we have our parking brake. So foot on the brake, down will release it, up will engage it, and you can hear that doing its thing when you do so. For the most part, I just let that automatically do its thing. When I put it in park, I hear it apply. When I put it in drive, I hear it disengage. Then we have brake hold. So brake hold is a cool feature where you are, you know, in a drive-through and your foot's on the brake and you want to give your leg a little bit of a rest. You hit that button, then you can sort of release your leg, give it a brake, and then when you hit the gas, it'll disengage that. Okay, now we have the new Lexus shifter. So on the shifter, the most important thing to point out is park is a button. So make sure you know that park is a button, and anytime you want to park, it's the button. Then to actually put it in gear, you put your foot on the brake. Over in back is drive. Let go, it'll click back in place. So again, over back, clicks back into place. To the left is neutral, and it'll automatically, it actually just popped in neutral even though the car's off. And then up, over and up, and snap back is reverse. Then we have a little manual mode. So if you just go straight down, that would put it in manual mode. And essentially you wouldn't go up and you wouldn't shift up and down in this. You would use your paddles, which is, I guess, a button I forgot to talk about, is the paddle shifter. So we have a left, which is shift down, and then right, which is shift up. So you can see the little plus and minus there. And that's how you can override your shifting, is in that. Then above that, we have our drive mode. So eco, normal, custom. Again, when I press the center again. Then over to the right is sport, and then sport plus. And now I'm gonna show you all of those features in that exact same order on the TFT display here. So we have eco, then we have normal, and you can see it changing. Then we have custom, does a little change again. Then we have sport, and then sport plus. I always think it's cool that sport and sport plus are very different on there. So sport has like the circle with the tachometer. Sport plus has, I don't know, that 1980s DeLorean vibe. I really like that, it's cool. So that's all that button does. Then we have our wireless charging port, which is not a button, so we're not gonna talk about it, but it does open and close like that. Now we have our hazard and more vents. The vents are very textured and grippy, which is good. The hazard is something no one ever knows where it is until you need it. And it's really important as a salesperson, as a car salesperson, to show your guests where that button is, because you don't want to be on the side of the road and be like, oh my God, my car's breaking down. How do I tell? And you're like, you know, opening your sunroof and pulling down your visor, when meanwhile, you just gotta know that that button is right there in the center. So hazard's right in the center and it flashes as you would expect it to. Then the vents, again, so closed and then open to the left and right of that. Then we have our center button, which is the volume. So you can press and hold that. It'll reset the system if you ever needed it to. And it's also your volume knob. That's what that little power button is telling you, is that it is a power button and that this isn't a button, but this is. Then we have front defrost. So that'll fire up the HVAC system to really focus everything on the front. Then to the right of that is our heated mirrors and heated rear windshield. Okay, for the next button, it's actually the screen. Oh wait, a screen isn't a button, so we're not gonna do the screen. But I will say, these little dials are kind of a button, and they're for the HVAC controls. They're grippy. That's how you do your climate. I know a couple people in the comments can be like, no, we want to know the screen. I have lots of video talking about the screen. Check out other videos on the channel, or maybe let me know in the comments below if I should do a 20-minute video on the screen. So let's move up, and usually somewhere in the car up here, there's usually a picture of me. Oh, there I am in the mirror. That's the picture of me right there. Below the picture of me is a few little buttons. So 3 little buttons for the garage door. So you can program HomeLink to either one of those 3 buttons. There's a process online to do that. And again, it is a little tiresome, so just make sure you watch the video. The mirror is actually tinting right now because of the camera. I haven't seen that before, that's fun. So this is our sunglass holder. So you just press that button, it opens up. And because you're all here, I have to do this really satisfying thing, and I'm gonna take off this sticker. Ready? There's nothing better than taking off stickers off a brand new car. So above that, we have another little control panel here in the headrest. Kind of reminds me of being on an airplane. The first one is to move the panoramic roof shade. Because it's the panoramic, it does have a powered shade. And to do that, you just press and hold it forward, and then you can press and hold it backward, and it'll open and close that sunroof. Then to the right of that, we have the sunroof itself. So this opens it all the way, and you just press and hold it for a second, and then it'll do its thing. I'm just gonna cancel that. And then above that one is the crack one. So that one just cracks it a little bit. And then to put it all back, you just hit the car back. And I know not a lot of people look up at your sunroof, because I wouldn't either, but the buttons will show a picture of a car, and that'll tell you what it's gonna do. Then we have the door button. So this is for the dome light, the auto feature. So if that's not on, you're gonna come into your car at nighttime and it's gonna be too dark and you're gonna hate yourself. So make sure that that little green light is on. Then we have an SOS button. We're not gonna press that because that's how you get to the call center for Lexus Canada or US or wherever you live. And it's gonna call the call center. So if you need an emergency, there'll be an operator to help you. Then we have these little soft touch. I know they're not a button. These little soft touch lights. So one is like a map light, one is like a dome light. When you hit the dome light, it does all the lights. When you hit the map light, it's just the map. So that's an important little bit of info. Okay, so as I exit, I'm gonna show you. So there's another little button here. So on the center armrest, we can open it from each side with this little button. The other little button is the seatbelt button, which I don't think has been innovated or changed in many, many years. It's the same, and it's always been the same, and it might always be the same. So then we also have a button here to raise and lower the 3-point seatbelt. So just up and down, it just sort of clicks into place, and that's that. And then there's also another little button right here to remove the headrest. So you just sort of like press and hold that, and you can slide that up. I don't recommend doing that in driving, but they do say if you were ever in a car accident where you're in the water, you can remove this and then use the little metal to smash a window. But I wouldn't recommend doing that either. I don't know. Okay, so going into the passenger side now, very same exact door handle to get in. However, now we just have less buttons over here. So we just have a single up and down for the window. But again, half click and then all the way. Lock and unlock the electronic door latch. And again, you can pull it towards you. There is no memory seats here. So that is important that a lot of people forget to look at. And that's everything on the front door. On the passenger seat, we do have just forward, backward. We don't have lumbar anymore. So it does get rid of the lumbar, even on this F-Sport Series 3 package. Then when you're sitting in it, you have a glove box, which you have to use your thumb to open. It's kind of like it opens that way type thing. In there, usually there's some books and things like that. But again, glove boxes hasn't really changed in a lot of years. So it's kind of the same. And we have a vent just like the others here. And that's pretty much it for buttons for the passenger. It's definitely a driver focused car. Okay, so getting into the rear seat. So we do have a couple extra buttons here. One of them being on the door itself. So right inside that latch is the child lock. So if it's down, the outside handle will be the only way to enter, exit and enter. It'll make it so that this handle you can't use. So down is the child lock. Very old school. They haven't changed that in forever either, even though now it's more electronic, I'm sure, than mechanical. Although it does feel mechanical when you press it, when you open and close it. So that's that. On the passenger rear, we still have the electronic door handles, lock and unlock, the window switch, and no power seat. You can't actually, power recline or anything like that. However, there is a way to recline in the top left corner. So this, you can actually recline. So some people think it's just for folding down the seat, but you can actually use it to recline. So just that little lever, pull it, you can push, and that makes it so you can recline. Then once you're sitting inside, we have a few vents in the center, as well as some USB ports and stuff like that, but that's not a button. And then this folds down. There is these these headrests that you have to press. You have to press this little side button to get them to go up and down. So that's that. Oh, there is a dome light back here, so you can turn on and off that. Right now all the doors are open, so it won't override it. But if you needed to override it, it is right there and super easy to use. Okay, let's open up the trunk. So really good, simple way to remember where the button is for that. It's right under the X. So see where the X is? If we go under it, that is the little pad you're gonna put your fingers on to open it up. It's kind of like beside the camera. So X, button, you're gonna squeeze that on this package. Some of them are still not powered, but for this one it is. And then to close it, what you would do is press the close. Now this one is technically a way you can lock it. So it's like if you got everything out of your car already and you wanted to hit that button and walk away, once you start to walk away, the car will shut that and then lock. I have trust issues. All my friends will tell you that. So I always just like to press the closing of the hatch, and then as I walk away, press the lock. But that's just me. Once you're back here, we have, some little hooks and things like that. There really isn't a ton of buttons. You can reach the levers from the backs of those seats. There is a lot underneath here, which I've done other videos in the past on, but we don't need to get into that too much. But what we will do is just hit that button and it'll close. And while we're back here, I might as well just show you the gas door because it's already open. So it does say premium unleaded fuel only because it is the NX 350. This clicks in place and you can just sort of like hang it up on its little hanger there. So that's that. So I always get accused by saying that every Lexus vehicle is amazing. Well, in today's video, I spent a lot of time with the new NX 350 to see how it fits in my everyday life. In doing so, I learned a few things. So make sure you stick to the end of the video because I saved the best one for last. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. Okay, so as I go through these, I need to set the stage. I've spent most of my time in the RX 350. And previous to that, I was driving an ES. These are both big, mid-size luxury cars and sedans. The NX I thought was gonna be very different. I sometimes paint them with the same brush thinking, is the NX just a smaller version of the RX? But I was wrong. It was pretty obvious, even my first day of driving the NX, that the handling and driving characteristics were way different than the RX. And what I mean by that is something I say to every guest that's looking at the two of them. The N stands for nimble. So the whole attitude of the NX is supposed to be agile, fun to drive, great handling and all those things. And it was pretty obvious the first roundabout that I took on my way home that night, where my RX would usually lean a little bit extra, the NX just seemed to be tighter and would go where I wanted it to go. So the handling alone of the NX was a nice upgrade to the RX. So I sort of started to look at it as like, not an SUV that's small, but more like a sport sedan that's big. And that reminded me to when the NX first launched. The NX was never supposed to be the Lexus RAV4 of the lineup. It was supposed to be the IS350, but on stilts. In fact, even when the RAV4 and the NX started to get a little bit close to each other, Lexus said no, the NX is still gonna be born on Shimoyama, the racetrack in Japan. And yes, I sometimes forget about how fun an SUV can be to drive because I like my big comfy RX that's like driving a couch when I'm in the country roads and doing my commuting back and forth, and I forgot that an SUV could be fun. And the NX definitely did that for me. However, there is a downside to that. Having the new NX 350h and the new RX 350h share was pretty much the same powertrain, I thought it would have more get up and go because of it being a lighter platform. I haven't figured out why it doesn't feel that way. And I'm not gonna tell anybody that it does. It doesn't feel like it has this big mid-sized SUV power plant. Instead, it feels like it was made for the NX.
And what I mean by that is it wasn't too like blow your face off type horsepower where I was being thrown back in my seat. However, it was still agile and quick enough. There was another thing. I noticed that I could hear the engine just a little bit more than the RX. And at first I was like, oh no, what is this? Is that maybe a lack of insulation under the hood? Is it maybe piped in through the speakers? And then I was like, well, when you think about it, being a nimble SUV, it's not supposed to hide those types of sounds like in the RX, where, the average demographic of an RX owner is, gonna have their music off and just like that really quiet cabin. That's why they're paying extra for it. Where the NX doesn't mind a little excitement. I remember the early commercials of the NX usually had windy roads and sort of a heartbeat in the background, where the RX usually had a very quiet nature drive. And that was a big difference for me. Would I still put them in a race side by side and see if they're different? Yes, maybe that's a video I'll do in the future. But for now, the Agile alone was a big difference. Okay, so the biggest change that I noticed when I got in the car was actually the size. Now, the RX versus the NX, we know the RX has more space, but it's still just 2 passengers. The space actually comes from just how everything is more spread out on the dash, and the NX has a little bit more of that cockpit, meaning when I'm sitting, I can actually reach everything without having to like stretch my arm too much, including the passenger side floor. So if I had a bag of cookies there, like chocolate chip homemade cookies from a friend of mine, I can be able to reach that from sitting straight up. And same thing with like almost even closing the passenger side door. So everything is just a lot closer to you, which gives you a little bit more of that sport athletic SUV that it is, because I'm way more upright than that little bit of an RX lounge that I was in before. And even though it's the same screen, it being closer to me, I don't know, it's almost like it was like a little bit clearer, I guess you could say. Also, I like that NX has kept the Sport Plus Eco button as an actual physical dial. I know I'm an optimist and I always find things that are great about some of the Lexus innovations. However, the fact that it's hidden away in things like the new RX, it does take a little bit away from like that feeling of like being able to put it in sport mode. It's kind of like when, cell phones started to take over the home phones, and when you like go to hang up on someone, you don't have like that physical hanging up anymore. And now you just press like a little boop, where on the actual like drive modes, there's something about putting it in sport mode or putting it in normal mode that's nice as a physical dial. It's gonna be the same when they actually, eventually, car manufacturers totally get away with any type of gear shift and like it just uses your head or something like that. There's something about throwing a car in gear and there's something about putting it in a different mode there. Also notice the center console is a little bit smaller. You have your exposed cup holders and still like storage for everything, but all in all, it's just a little bit less of like a cushion and again, a little bit more of that cockpit. Okay, so as far as the storage space is concerned with the NX, it's still very usable. I mean, this is a small SUV in the market and almost at first looks like you would just have sort of like a hatchback car worth of space back here, mostly because of the body lines. And that was something I always forgot about, is when you see an NX in traffic, it looks so sleek, it looks so agile and sporty, you forget it's actually super usable. And the trunk definitely showcases that. It's a good height to load things out of, there's storage space on all angles, and they even went with like the soft tonneau cover so that you can easily fold it up and store it under this fake floor if you need a little bit of that extra room. Where the RX, you can't, it's sometimes hard to get rid of that tonneau cover. So even though it's a small SUV, there's still tons of usable space in that backseat. Now, I know this sounds silly because my last car was an RX, but I can't stress enough how much I love these door handles. The new electronic door latch is so easy to use, getting in and out. You can just like grab it and go. You just sort of push it in one motion instead of like having to pull levers and use your other hand and stuff like that. I find it on the NX to be super smooth, really quick, and one of my favorite tech features about going with an NX versus some of the other vehicles in the market. Okay, so now if you stayed to this part of the video, I'm gonna explain to you the biggest reason why living with an NX might be a better bet than something like an RX. And that is features for money. And what I mean by that is you can get a fully loaded NX for like a $500 difference of a mid to low package RX. And you almost have to ask yourself, am I getting the extra money out of the RX, or can I use that to get some extra buttons and gadgets in the NX? And that was the other thing, is the NX has always been, since it was, initialized in 2015, one of those techie SUVs with lots of buttons and gadgets. Some of my favorite are, because you're going to a cheaper or a less expensive vehicle and getting those extra buttons, things like lane departure assist. One of the silliest features that in a brochure might be like, well, I can change lanes. I don't need help changing lanes. But on my way to work today, just pressing cruise control and then lightly lifting up on that signal for 2 seconds, having the car being like, Dustin, I'm gonna change lanes for you right now, and having it beep and change lanes without having to put in any effort. I mean, you guys, there's a lot of novelty car features out there right now, but that one's pretty sweet. There's nothing more luxurious than having the car do something for you like that. And that's sort of all about what luxury is it not? Having something, an item, a materialistic thing, do something for you that you would normally have to do for yourself is exactly what luxury is. Going to those higher packages, you're also gonna get things like park assist, where you can press a button to park. Now that one, even though I love the lane departure alert, I use that one usually for a couple times to show my friends, to try it for myself. It's fun, but I don't think I would use it every day because maybe I'm just a control freak and I want to park my own car. I'm not too sure. However, that is one of the features that you get in that higher package. Things like the Mark Levinson sound system. My RX, being the mid-package luxury, didn't have that. So even driving this one home tonight, I was like, wow, I forgot how much bass that Mark Levinson sound system has. And being in the NX, all the speakers are closer to you because of the cabin is smaller, so I can feel and hear audio coming from every angle of the car. And I thought that was pretty great. Now, while we're talking about features, let's talk about some of the standard ones. Things like the Lexus safety system, especially with the proactive driving assist, where there's like a safety bubble around the outside of the car, so it is doing the braking for you. It is sort of like keeping you in your lane while you're driving through the city because there's that extra layer of protection around you. All of that's gonna come standard with any of the NX lineup for sure, but living with it every day gives a whole different meaning to driving. In fact, sometimes I'll drive my 2014 LS after driving the new NX, and I'll be like, oh, I forgot how much effort it actually takes. And sometimes I like that. Sometimes I like the extra effort of an analog car, like an older car. But sometimes, when I'm on my way to work or on my way home after a really late filming session for this YouTube channel, it's nice to have the car doing a lot of the thinking for you. So why not spoil yourself with extra features if you don't need the extra space or the extra aspect of that RX? The NX might do it for you. Here's the other thing about the NX. It comes in so many different packages and drivetrains and even colors. I mean, I like this blacked out look with the F Sport Series 3 black wheels and like a true black wheel, by the way. A true black paint, well, it's caviar, so there's like a little bit metallic there. But it does really have a little bit of flair and character and things like that. In summary, living with an NX every single day. It has a very efficient powertrain. Yes, you can hear that engine a little bit, but it's still super fun to drive. The steering is so light and you can take it and drive it like a car. Like I said, driving in a roundabout that I drive every single day from an RX into the NX and having just that little tighter. It's almost like the car was leaning into the corner with me instead of leaning away from it like the spacious RX was doing. Having that driving dynamic, being able to get all of those high-end features with the Mark Levinson sound system that gives you those higher-end speakers at a lower price point, you're saving on fuel. You're gonna save on being able to have those high-end features in the same price that you would have had going to a bigger vehicle. And all in all, it makes for an amazing value of a luxury SUV without really having to sacrifice anything other than maybe a little bit of space, but depending what you use it for, you might be okay with that anyway. So I can totally see the hype around it. The hybrid especially is really, really fuel economy wise for a great decision. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you have an NX, what you think I should have touched on. I mean, I'm still gonna keep driving them and learn more. Just like I did with the RX, I'll continue to find things I love about the NX and be able to talk about them more and more like a true owner's review. So let me know in the comments below what you think and what you would have added to it. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And I always try to reply to any of my Instagram DMs, so you can always ask me questions on there, and I will get back to you. I've already talked to a lot of our viewers and gotten feedback and given advice on anything Lexus and automotive related. And I'll see you in the next video. Hi, I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. And today, I'm gonna take you on a tour of the 2024 NX 350 in the S Sport Series 3 package. And make sure you stick around because I'm also going to do some driving impressions as well. But before we get into it, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. So getting right into the styling of the front end, as I mentioned, this is the F Sport Series 3. So we have that big black spindle grille that I'm very happy they did an outline. Instead of like the lighter chrome, it's all blacked out. So it's like a piano black finish, as well as a lot of layers to that F Sport Series grille. At the bottom, we have some silver. It's sort of just like a little lip that they've added to it. And on the other side, we have sort of that spindle grille continued. But if you look closely, there is a few other features integrated into this front end, like the tow hook. So that tow hook cover comes off. Under the fake floor in the back, there is the tow hook you screw in and you can tow the vehicle out of the ditch or wherever you ended up. We also have the headlight washers on either side. So when your headlights are on, if you do the mist feature, it'll actually spray these headlights. Now, unless you live in Canada or somewhere that salts the roads, you might think, why would you need that? It does really help in, when your car has salt all over the front end and your headlights are salted as well. So it helps that light come through once it's been rinsed. Also, we have some parking sensors sort of hidden on the black grille. They kind of blend in. And since it's the F Sport Series 3 package, we also have a camera underneath that Lexus emblem. So on the headlights of this NX, there is a lot of features. So we have a triple beam LED headlight that has the intelligent high beam assist, meaning instead of just turning them a high and low when they sense other cars and objects, it actually will shut off and reposition some of those headlights so that you have the maximum amount of light and just sort of blacking out what's gonna blind someone. We also have this beautiful daytime frosted daytime running light, as well as right above it, a signal / amber light that is almost the same width of it, so it really sort of sticks out, and when someone has their signal on, it grabs your attention towards the headlight and to the Lexus itself. So the side profile, we have some beautiful blacked out 20-inch rims. We have the F Sport logo right here, and the only chrome, pretty much on the whole vehicle, which is right here on the bottom of the cap of the mirror. Everything else is pretty much blacked out. The chrome is almost like a smoked out chrome. The roof liner, the roof rails are fully blacked out. And then even just towards the back of the vehicle, we have everything color matched, like the fender flares and the door handles, etc. So going to the back of this beautiful blue NX, we have this amazing taillight that goes from one side, breaks up, and then sort of goes across to the other. We have the LEXUS. The NX was one of the first to have that new emblem on the rear. A little bit of decoration at the bottom, a diffuser, and a little bit of gray. But let me show you the trunk and go over a lot more that's inside of that. So the first thing I noticed when I opened this one is this little tag that Lexus put there teaching you how to open the trunk using your foot. And no, I don't mean sticking your foot above your head and becoming an acrobat. I mean the kick sensor located underneath the bumper. And I'm telling you, this feature has gotten a lot better and more accurate over the years. The first generation of it was a little clunky. Now I find it works almost every time that I do it. So make sure you give it a second chance if you were disappointed the first time around. So the trick of the kick sensor is to have the vehicle locked until you approach it, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and then it'll open up. A lot of times people will try to swipe the foot or hold the foot. I always find it works best when you just put 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you'll hear that beep and it'll open up. A couple times if you hit unlock before approaching the car, or if you've already opened a door or someone else has, that kick sensor might not be looking for you, if that makes sense. Also, we have this cargo net that's sort of latched to both sides, and then you could just expand it upward and hook it to the top there. It's great for putting loose items in instead of having your Wonder Bread rolling around your trunk space. It's a lot easier to put it in there. We also have the summer floor mats. Right now I have some winter floor mats installed on the car. A lot of my guests keep these in the package, but it is nice that there is a little detail to it. And what I mean by that is, since this one is the F Sport, it says F Sport NX right on the floor mats. And also, since it has the red interior, the outside of those floor mats is red. So I think that's pretty cool. If you're gonna use that, some people do, some people don't. it's kind of cool that it matches everything. Also, we have a little net off to the left-hand side. Again, great for some loose items. And above that, we have a hook to hook your grocery bags, etc. onto it. So again, it's not flopping around in the back seat. And to the left of that hook, we have the outlet. So it's like a 12-volt outlet. Then we have the Medikit and the user manual, both Velcroed to the side. You can also Velcro those to the back of the seats, which, by the way, on the S4 Series 3 are power. So you can use 2 power switches located to the right of that trunk space to lower and raise those back seats. And it pretty much goes almost flat. It's not perfect, but it's almost perfect. So the cargo cover up top is a foldable soft style cover. And so many times I see when people trade in their cars that this is like left in their garage or in their basement, because there was always a time where it was in the way and people didn't know what to do with it. But there is a way for you to hide it underneath the floor. Let me show you that. So all you're gonna do is move this netting off to the side, lift up the little cargo mat, and there's a little handle here, which you can see. In here, we have a huge sort of cavity that no one takes advantage of. It's probably about a foot deep, maybe 2 feet wide, and you can put a lot of stuff in here, especially loose things like the user manuals or some cleaning products or groceries even would fit in there quite nicely. But off to the right of it, you'll see there's a slit that's pretty much the exact size of the cargo cover, and you just slide that in there and it fits perfectly underneath the fake floor so that you don't have to leave it in your garage and forget that it's there. Okay, so to put the grocery hooks down, you just push in the bottom and sort of fold it out, and then when you're done with it, you can put it flat. However, I don't know why people don't just leave it down. I mean, it's not a safety hazard, so I just put it down because then when you need it, it's there and ready for you. So to fold down, you're just gonna press and hold one of the switches. You'll see the quick lever sort of release, and then it'll fold down the seat. Now, if anything is in the way, even in the slightest, you'll hear some beeps, you'll hear the seat stop. It's very sensitive to making sure it doesn't crush a human or a piece of, luggage or whatever you have back there. Okay, so sitting in the back of the 24 NX, I'm 6'1". It's not too bad size-wise. Maybe the top of my hair is tickling because of the ceiling is kind of touching it just slightly, but not a big deal. I'm actually pretty comfortable. I also have this armrest that I can put down in between me and the other passenger. It's not quite as big as an RX back here, but it's still totally fine. Also, because of this package, I have heated seats back here, which is nice. Just the 2 seats are heated. The controls are right here. There's 3 levels to them, which is nice. The person in the center doesn't get a heated seat, but maybe they're gonna be close enough to everybody that they'll stay warm anyway. Who knows? I did notice that there is little microphones above each passenger back here. And usually what that's for, or what it's for in like the TX and the RX anyway, is part of the noise canceling. So to keep this cabin really quiet, it's using that type of microphone to do so. I also noticed with the panel roof, it is tinted a little bit. So, and it's tinted like that UV yellow sort of protection glass, and it looks different even than like the windshield or the side. And that's probably just to cut down the UV production in places like California or Florida where it's like super hot and the sun is out. I'm just guessing, that's just my assumption. Also back here, we have a couple vents in the center and some hidden vents under the seats in front of me. I only noticed that because of it's cold here today and I can sort of feel them warming up my toes. Also, we have the E-latch back here with the Mark Levinson sort of logo and grille for the sound system as well. And it does come factory tinted for the back seats as well. A lot of times I forget to mention that. So before I get into the NX, I wanted to stop talking so you can just take a listen to what it sounds like outside right now, and then we'll do kind of a test of how silent it is inside. Okay, and now let's go inside and see. Okay, now inside, take a listen. Okay, so I have the car still running, the heat is off, and once I'm inside, you can't hear all the highway noise, the wind, the cars and people around that I could hear when I was outside. Okay, so sitting in the driver's seat of the NX now, let me show you around a little bit. I'll start focusing with the center here. So since this NX doesn't have the old Lexus trackpad, we have some more space here for some other things. 2 cup holders, a wireless charger that can be opened up, and then we have a little bit of storage inside with a little 12-volt outlet as well. There is this little shelf here on top that I don't know what it's for because it's really small and it's too slippery to put like coins in. So I'm not sure what you would use that for, but it's there. And we have a USB-C and a USB other USB beside it. Then to the left, I have the drive mode switch. I really like the position of it because you can sort of just touch it when you're driving and it's not out of the way, like you're not looking down, it's still kind of in your eyesight, which is nice. It does normal if you press the center, If you press the center again, it goes into custom mode, which you can sort of customize. To the left is eco, to the right is sport, and then when you're in sport, if you go to the right again, it's sport plus. Now the difference between sport and sport plus is that the sport plus just tightens up the suspension, where the sport only does the sort of the throttle and things like that. We also have the new style gear lever. So how to use it is you simply just put it to the side and down to put it in drive, and then let go and it snaps back. And then reverse is to the side and up and snaps back, and then park is you just press this little P here. I point that out because I do forget to tell people this when they drive an NX for the first time, and then they're fine driving it and then they go to park it and they're like, how do I put it in park? So it is important to note. Surrounding that whole style is this piano black finish. I will say piano black in that area does have fingerprints. This is a brand new car. I'm probably one of the only people that have been in this car, and there is already fingerprints just from me being in here. So if you do have a little, like if you have that about you where you need to have it perfect, maybe just keep like a microfiber close by and you can wipe it down once in a while, but you also don't want to scratch it, so you got to be really careful when you're wiping it down. The rest of the finish is sort of this gray, which is a little more versatile. You can't see the dust, you can't see the fingerprints, etc. Then below the gear shift, we have a couple different buttons here. One of them is traction control off. You're really only going to use that if you're really stuck in snow and you want all the power to go to the wheels without any traction control or, you know, stability control sort of kicking in. Then we have a little drive mode switch that sort of just kind of puts it in a little off-roady type all-terrain mode. I haven't really played with that too much, but it does have sort of a car going off-road with a little tree beside it, so that kind of shows you that it's like going in the forest or something, I don't know. Then we have the electronic parking brakes. You can pull it up or down to activate and deactivate that. And you have a brake hold here, which I never really used the brake hold, but I have had some guests that specifically didn't buy a car that didn't have brake hold. So how that works is if you're in traffic and you press that, or if you're in a drive-through, whatever, you can give your braking leg a brake and just let go. And then when you hit gas, it'll deactivate. We also have the auto off feature. So what that means is from the factory, if you're driving the NX gas and you go to a red light and like, let's say your climate control isn't cranked and a few other things, it'll maybe shut off the gas engine just to save that idling. Some people don't like it, so they have this button to be able to override it. I did notice you have to press it every time if you want to override it. So it doesn't just, once you press it, it doesn't just do it forever. You have to press it every time. I'll say I got used to it though. So when I feel the auto off feature kick in, if I notice my light is about to go green, I just move my leg a little bit, and that kicks on the gas engine, vice versa. Then we have downhill assist. So again, not a feature I've used very much because where I live in Ontario, it's pretty flat. But if you do live in a very hilly area and you want to save your brakes, you can put downhill assist on, and it sort of just keeps it in a gear that'll use the engine for some braking. That's all. Then we have the armrest here. It does open from both sides, which is really nice. And it's a decent size to have your elbow resting and still have a passenger being able to use it without fighting over it. So one of the only changes to the 2024 NX is actually the fact that this glove box is now the same color as the rest of the interior. It used to be just matching of the dashboard, but now it sort of ties in the rest of the interior color. In this case, it's red, so that is now red. Okay, so now I want to do a sound test on the Mark Levinson sound system. Now, a couple things to note about the sound system. One is it's always important to make sure you're using a strong audio file. So Spotify, make sure it's the full quality, or if you're using like lossless audio, things like that. That way you can really get the full immersion of the sound system. And I will say that even the factory regular sound system, the Lexus Premium Audio, is still really good. It's usually like a Pioneer-based system, and sometimes that one is better for different genres. Sometimes the Mark Levinson is better for different genres, so it really just depends. But let's get into it and do a bit of a test here with just some generic music. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the left and go towards the right. So pretty much with the Mark Levinson, it's just about how full it really sounds. It's not a ton of bass, it's not like overwhelming, it's just very clear, very full, very crisp. And I think for the majority of listeners, they'll appreciate that. So without further ado, let's go for a drive and see if the NX is as nimble as the name suggests. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put it in drive using the new shifter. let it snap back, and away we go. I just have it in normal mode right now, but I am going to put it in sport mode when I get to the road that I want to try out how windy it is. Also, I forgot to mention the steering wheel on the Sport NX has a lot of grip to it. It's a little bit more beefier to like actually hold, and then there's sort of like this perforated texture to it to make it a little bit more grippy. Also, it is really nicely stitched, and it has red stitching on it, and it feels hand stitched. I don't know for sure if it is. I know a lot of Lexuses do have hand stitching. I just don't know if the NX steering wheel is one of them. Also, I do have my CarPlay running right now with directions back to the dealership because I wanted to test something I read online about it not showing it in the heads-up display, and it in fact does show it in the heads-up display. So I can see turn-by-turn directions. Right now it's telling me I'm gonna be turning right on 7th Street North in 1.2 kilometers, and then I'm on the North Service Road. So the thing is, you have to turn this on. From the factory, the heads-up display just shows like a minimum amount of information. But if you go to the quick menu on the system, you can change it to full. And then you'll see things like turn-by-turn direction, fuel economy, anything you want to see pretty much. But you do have to turn it on, so make sure you do because it's amazing. You don't have to really look at the screen much when you have it on. Okay, let's put it in Sport Plus. I'm coming up to where I want it to go, and we're just gonna throw it around some corners real quick. Sport Plus. Now, the NX is on the platform, or when it first launched anyway, of the IS. So it wasn't to be on the SUV platform, it wanted to be on a car, like a sports car platform, to give it that nimble handle. Now it's more similar to the RAV4 platform, but on steroids, but with the Lexus driving signature is what Lexus has marketed as. We're gonna just continue on my little S-bend here, full complete stop, because that's the law. Ooh, and you'll hear right now the auto off kicked on, and when I want to go, I'm just gonna lightly let go of that brake a little bit. It turns it back on so that when I want to go, I'm ready. And we'll just accelerate to this corner. It hugs the road. Not much body roll. I was able to accelerate very nicely through the corner. In fact, the resistance of the steering actually made that turbo spool a little bit harder, which I liked. Since I'm in sport mode, it's holding the gears a little bit. Yeah, really nice handling for the NX. In fact, I could have been on a tighter S-bend and it would be fine. You wouldn't feel it wobbling around at all. Very, very tight car, or SUV, because of that. Also, we have things in this one like the digital rear view mirror, so I can see behind me even if I had things like cargo, etc. We have the customizable heads-up display, so I can change what the buttons do on the steering wheel to be able to change sort of how I interact with the heads-up display and with the display down here. I did do a full video on that, so you have to watch the rest of the channel for that. There is a way to really get the most out of that feature. Also, I don't find there to be much blind spots in the NX. I find even where my head sits, I'm not right at the B-pillar, so I have a full view when I look to the left. I don't know if everybody feels the same. Again, I'm a little bit taller, so maybe that helps, I don't know. And we're gonna go down a bumpier road. I'm gonna put it back in normal, or custom, I'll do normal. And it's kind of like a bumpier country road, because sometimes you don't want it to be tight handling. So still really good. Really solid. I've heard that even compared to the RAV4, it's just a lot quieter in here on these bumpy roads, as well as the suspension is more superior. There's more insulation, probably more weight to it. Yeah, super, super quiet. Even with these big wheels on the Sport, it doesn't feel like they're big wheels, if that makes sense. So like, I don't feel every pothole. I don't feel every sort of nook and cranny. It's really smooth, actually. So accelerating onto the highway now, I got my foot down. Really good pickup. And actually, at the lower RPM, there is a nice sound to it too. I really like it. It's like a little bit throaty. A couple cool features. So the adaptive radar cruise control is amazing on this car. It also slows down for curves and stuff like that. What I love is the lane change assist. So if you just hold a half click on that signal, it'll automatically change lanes for you, just depending if there's someone in your blind spot or not or whatever. It does take a couple seconds to kick in, but when it does, it's amazing. It's not in all the packages, but I do like it. I also really think that for being a small SUV, there is really good control over the road noise and wind noise and stuff like that. If you close the sunroof shade, you will get a little bit quieter. So I always recommend that if that's something you care about. But otherwise, it's nice to be up a little bit high and still if I wanted to, if I needed to weave through traffic a little bit or whatever, it's nimble enough, see what I did there, that the car can do so with ease. It's just like driving like a sedan or a sportier, you know, IS or something like that. So there you have it, a general overview of the 2024 Lexus NX350 in the F Sport Series 3 package, a little bit of driving impressions, a little bit of finer details, and in the beautiful ultrasonic blue. Hi, I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines, and today I'm going to show you 5 hidden features you might not have known about the 2024 NX. But before I get into that, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content, as well as let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video and if there's any video ideas you have for the future. Hidden feature number 1 is how the windows roll up. So what you'll notice is as the window closes and it gets to the top, it actually slows down. And this is supposed to be Lexus's sort of homage to omotenashi, or the Japanese tea ceremony, where when you close the door, you slow down. Let me show you. The reason it's hidden is it's really easy to miss, but it is pretty cool when you notice it. Number 2 is road sign assist. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is hit these 6 little squares on your center screen, scroll over to the 3rd page and make sure road sign assist is on. It's a really cool feature that on your main gauge cluster, you'll be able to see what road signs are around you that the car has picked up, whether you're driving or stopped. Now for me, I remember I was stopped at a red light one time and I looked down at my gauge cluster and I can see that it says no right turn on red. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that. And then I looked up and off to the corner in a pretty bad spot, there was a sign that said no right turn on red. So the car picked that up and reminded me right in the center there, and I think it's such a cool feature. The next hidden feature is to make it easier for you to change your windshield wipers. So right now the car is parked and they're kind of just down, but there is a way that you can have it so they're upright even when the car's off. Let me show you. Okay, so with the car off, all you're gonna do is hold up on the wiper lever for about 10 seconds, and then the wipers will go up and stay there. Okay, number 4 is custom ambient lighting. So to get to the ambient lighting, you're just gonna hit the gear symbol, you're gonna scroll down to vehicle customize, which by the way, there's a lot of cool settings in here. And we're gonna go illumination, and there's a few different things here we can do by zone, where you can choose different intensities for front, rear, and foot. We can do some different themes where it's like lightning, bamboo, rainforest, or we can go down to custom, and if you hit custom, you can click on the color and change it to whatever you want. So you could have it blue, bright pink, orange, whatever you want, hit OK, and then the car will have it like that. So my 5th and probably the most missed hidden feature in any Lexus, not to mention the new 2024 NX, is the wiper de-icer. So in Canada, it's really important because in the snow time, you get those streaks on your windshield wipers where you can actually turn on a heating element that's built into your windshield to make sure there's no ice buildup on your wipers. How you get to it is just hit climate on your main screen and you'll see the word de-icer at the bottom of the list. Turn that on, and for a set amount of time, it'll heat up those wipers and you won't have any streaks. So there you have it, 5 hidden features of the 2024 NX Hybrid. I'm sure there's a lot more hidden features that I could go over, so if you like this video, make sure you hit like or comment below for some other ideas for future content. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hi, I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines, and today I'm gonna answer the question, what is the difference between the old NX versus the new, fully redesigned NX? But before I get into that, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content, as well as some other automotive stuff, and we'll get right into it. So this one here is a 2021 NX 300 in the F Sport Series 3 package. So the F Sport Series 3 package is the fully loaded for the 2021 model year, and the one I have on this side is a 2024 F Sport Series 2, and I'll kind of get into the differences of the packages, but mainly we'll do a quick overview. So looking at the front end, on the F-Sport Series 3 in 2021, you got a triple beam LED headlight with the daytime running light, lower, more integrated into the bumper. The rest, we have some smoked out chrome around the grille. I really like the smoked out grille, chrome, but it is a little bit hard to clean. It does show water droplets, so you do have to keep on it so that doesn't sort of stick out when you're looking at it. And at the very bottom, we have this gorgeous silver painted lip, and it's kind of like a matte finish, so it should be a little bit more durable for, you know, water, dust, stone chips, stuff like that. And then we have this little decoration here. It doesn't seem to be actually an active vent in any sort, but it does hide the parking sensor quite well, so it doesn't stick out too far there, which is something I think Lexus has done a pretty good job in later years, is hiding those sensors so that you can't see them from a mile away. I mean, if you're looking for them, they're definitely there, but it does help to kind of tuck them into something like that. And then we have some lighting at the very end of the bumper here. And also too, I did notice that this little angle here is quite nice, and it kind of has like a front diffuser right beside it, but that just adds a little bit extra sporty. I think if they shaved that off, the front end wouldn't look nearly as aggressive. And then just that normal F-Sport spindle grille, absolutely gorgeous. It's nice, it's big, it captures your eye, and then the Lexus emblem is right in the center of that. Also, I will point out the hood. So the hood lines on the previous generation sort of is just on an angle. It kind of just opens up in kind of the shape of a triangle there. So we have a line at the edge here, and then a line sort of going into the center, and that lines up perfectly with the top of that grille, and then it's just flat throughout. Over to the new one. So a little bit different styling, but similar in a lot of ways too. The first thing you'll notice is the nose of it comes out further. Instead of being nice and the grille buttoned up to the hood, it does have a little bit of a panel here, and then that grille is like a straight down grille. We're seeing that a lot in the lineup, same with the RX 350 and 500 right now as well. And then the headlights, so this is an F-Sport Series 2, it just has the single beam LED headlight. If you were to go up a package, you would get the triple. Now on the previous generation, you would get that triple at a lower package. I think it was F-Sport Series 2, maybe even F-Sport Series 1, probably 2, where now you have to go all the way up. Sometimes for the first couple model years of a redesign, they'll do that and then change it later on. So we have that, and then the daytime running light is integrated in there. So it's not separated, it's not sort of like into the bumper, it is into that headlight lens. It seems to be a more frosted glass, and it does look a little bit sharper and a little bit brighter, and I think that's because it's so close to the headlight. And the signals and stuff like that are all part of that as well. In terms of the venting here, so it does seem to be active. There actually is airflow going into there, and there is more of a lip around that vent as well, probably to hopefully actually capture the air. That's probably what it's doing there. And then the lip at the bottom still does come out quite a bit, and I would say that's the most similar to the previous generation, is the fact that the lip is the same color, it sticks out, it's generally the same shape, but you'll notice around the grille surround, it's not the smoked out chrome anymore. It's just fully blacked out. So I do like that. I think it's easier to maintain and looking nice, and also having those types of accents blacked out, I think it's always been in style and won't go out of style. So I really like that as well. And then at the bottom, we do have a little bit different diffuser here. It's at the top instead of underneath that lip. And then that's pretty much it as far as the bumper is concerned. The hood has a different shape to it. So instead of having an angular line that is just kind of like a triangle, the hood line actually wraps around. So there is, instead of just being a straight body line, it has some curvature towards the front, and it gives, that combined with the new grille and that little nose, gives it a bigger, sort of a bigger face to it. And a lot of times people think that, oh my God, the new NX got so much bigger. It did get a little bit bigger, but because of those types of body lines, it looks bigger, it looks taller, it looks wider. So that's definitely contributing to that. The fact that it just kind of curvatures around there. And then there is a nice little swoop here as well. So it stays big at the top center and then kind of lowers into the headlight after that. And combined, again, just makes that front end look a little bit bigger. And you can probably see that right on camera here when you're looking at them sort of parked beside each other. Okay, the side profile of the 2021 NX300, a few things to point out here. One of them that you'll notice right away is the chrome. So even though it's an F Sport, it does have chrome sort of wrapped around both of the windows and pillars, and it's sort of ties in with that silver roof rack as well. So it's not the only silver on the side of the car, but it still kind of sticks out a little bit, I would say. The wheels themselves are, I think these ones are 18-inch. They're 18-inch, and it's like a hyper silver, I guess you could say. So it's not super dark. It does have a little bit of lightness to it. And then there is some chrome on the mirror here as well. So those are the three sort of bright accents. In terms of body lines, we have this seam that goes sort of from the front to the back, and it's above the handles. And on that C-pillar, they sort of connect. It sort of kind of goes back into that one triangle shaped. We have some matte black fender flares. So these here above the tires, again, probably just to protect it a little bit, and a tiny bit at the bottom, not a ton, but there is a little bit of that matte black. At the bottom, the handles themselves are the same ones that we've seen in, you know, the RX since like 2016. There is a seam that lights up when you approach them at nighttime. It's kind of a tried and true design, and they work well as well. Also, I should mention there is a signal light at the end of the mirror also. And then the F Sport logo, obviously on the fender, tells us that it's the F Sport. Over to the 2024. So at first glance, if you just saw the 2024 by itself, you might think that it has a lot of the same silhouette, but it is quite different. So now, instead of being a full bright chrome, it is a smoked chrome. And it's not the fully blacked out chrome from the front, it is a separate chrome. So smoked out chrome there. Oddly enough, it's regular chrome on the mirror. And I don't know if that was an oversight or on purpose, I'm not too sure, but the chrome on the mirror is not smoked out, it is regular. Body lines, we see that same seam, but instead of being above the handle, it actually is right in the center of the handle, and then it kind of swoops up in a triangle form to that C-pillar as well, and then there's a new line that sort of continues just above the handle there. A little bit more plastic at the bottom, so the matte black plastic does seem to be a bit bigger on this one. There's a little bit more of a shelf there. Again, that could be to protect a little bit, and it's actually blacked out, or sorry, not blacked out, but it is painted body color fender flares. And actually, I noticed there's a little bit more to that as well. The wheels are bigger, and instead of being a lug nut design, they're like a lug bolt design. These ones here are 20-inch. These ones are 20-inch, and they are painted black. So again, they're not body color, they're not metallic, it's like a gloss black. So that works out pretty well. The door handles are the new design. So 2023 and up has the electronic door handles. I've said that in a lot of my videos that I love these. I would say the look of the old ones are better, but the function of the new ones are my favorite. I think they're so much easier to get in and out of the vehicle, especially out. So I am definitely a big fan of that. Also, they kept the same F Sport logo. So it's not the new one that we've seen on like the 500 or some of the other, you know, the ES 350 F Sports. It is the exact same as that old one. And sort of the final thing on the side profile here would just be the roof racks. They're black, they're gloss black, so they're not that silver anymore. So overall, there is less silver, there's less, you know, of a contrast between the accents. It does sort of all blend together and give you a little bit more of that stealth look, especially in the caviar black, which is what we have here. Now, over to the previous generation, NX300. So looking at the rear, obviously we have the Lexus emblem. We have, you know, a different taillight design where it's just that L shape sort of. Fun fact about that L shape, and this was a guest of mine told me this, you know, back in like 2017 or something like that, is the way they've designed it is that even in the seam between the hatch and the fender, there is still light. So if someone's sitting behind you in traffic and your taillights are on, or it's nighttime or whatever, you can still see light. There's no gap in the light, which is really cool detail that not many people would notice, and I didn't notice until someone pointed it out. We have a decent amount of matte black sort of textured material there, a little bit of a shelf, and that's why there is a big protector here with some chrome on it between the hatch and that bottom bumper. And we have integrated exhaust ports. So that was all the rage, you know, just a couple years ago to have, you know, true exhaust, like flush mounted ports in your bumper. And as you noticed with the new one, it's kind of not the case anymore. So that's definitely something to point out. The wiper's the same on both, right at the bottom, sort of mounted in the middle. And then in the trunk itself, nothing really different as I mentioned. Maybe the new one has a little bit more space, but it's gonna be very close. Decent size to kind of get stuff in and out of. There is no basket to the left, I noticed. And also, I don't know if there's also no hooks for groceries or anything like that on the old model. But again, those are all very minuscule details that most people aren't probably gonna actually care about. Okay, so at the rear of the vehicle, we're gonna start with the 2024 NX 350. So a few things to note here. The most obvious is the newer style of Lexus emblem, which is the LEXUS. It's perfectly spaced out and just looks like a modern, very classy way instead of the old emblem. Also, the taillights are different. So we have sort of this separate Lexus signature sort of design here, and then I call it the samurai sword. The samurai sword above the Lexus emblem and above those two taillights. In terms of the actual shape of the rear, I would say the new one is a bit more rounded and again looks wider. And what I mean by that is like the panel here sort of wrapping around to that quarter panel more looks like a wide body kit, I guess you could say, or as close to that as you can get on sort of a family SUV. And also too, we have this fake but nice little vent decoration there as well. And then that same silver sort of rear spoiler diffuser as we saw in the front. You will notice, however, with the NX and with a lot of vehicles coming out, is you no longer see the exhaust. I mean, if you look low enough, you'll be able to see it, like we crawl under it, but there isn't really like a spot for them integrated into the bumper. And like I mentioned in my other videos, a big reason for that is future-proofing. In a world of EVs and hybrids and plug-ins, there's not gonna be a lot of exhaust showing. So in order to future-proof, to kind of blend into future traffic and future, automotive design, Lexus has already started to hide those without telling anybody, by the way. They just started to do that and they didn't put that in a brochure or anything. It just started happening, which is pretty cool. Also, I noticed when the trunk is closed, the hatch is closed, there isn't much of a lip here anymore. There is this little kind of protector for the top of the bumper, but on the other vehicles, there was more of a lip there, and they've sort of flushed that out, which I think is great. The trunk opens smoother, quieter, quicker than previous models. And in terms of space-wise, both vehicles are gonna be the same. We have a little basket sort of thing to the left and a few spots to the right to hook, groceries and stuff like that. But all in all, the trunk space hasn't changed much between the 2 years, for sure. Okay, so now sitting in the 2021 interior, I don't need these anymore, obviously. And I'll try not to ramble too much because when it comes to interiors, I always talk too much. So I'll try to just keep it basic. The biggest difference between the two is going to be the multimedia system. This one has the Lexus remote touch interface, so it is the little mouse pad in the center that I actually really like. Instead of, just going with the touch screen, it is the mouse. And because that screen is a little bit further away, it's a little more integrated into the dashboard, I would say. And there are still lots of buttons here. So we have the drive mode sort of mounted right in the center, right beside the shifter. We have a CD player and a tiny little shelf above the CD player, which I never knew what it was for. Maybe it's for, I don't know, a pen or something like that. Above that, we have our heated and cooled seats and all the climate controls sort of in the center there with the Lexus clock right above it, which I always liked. And pretty much that's it for the center. We do have the little makeup mirror, or I would call it my hair mirror because I would check my hair with it, which I always thought was cool. And underneath that is sort of a little storage again for change and stuff like that. And then there's sort of just like a little wrist rest for being able to use the remote touch interface. The seats themselves, these are sport seats. They do hug you a lot in this NX, I find. I would say the seats are definitely a little bit smaller. They're a little bit tighter. Some people love that. For my body size, it's really great. It's kind of like being, stationary exactly where I want to be and not having to settle into the seat at all. It's already telling me where I need to go. Steering wheel, we have some perforated leather around the sides, and the actual steering wheel controls are definitely older. So we have volume up, volume down, track up, track down, and then a little bit of controls on the little TFT display here, which is color. There is, a speed reading, a digital speed reading there, but it all does look a little bit old at this point. And then we have, our cruise control radar, our lane departure alert, all that stuff, kind of where your thumbs go as well. Other than that, we have, you know, a little bit of aluminum trim around the cabin. Everything does feel a little more compact, a little more like a car, I would say. And, you know, there is also some buttons to the left here for things like this one has the bird's eye view or to lock the differential, etc., etc. Pretty much that's all I wanted to go over on this one, and we'll go check out the newer one. Okay, so sitting in the 2024, there's a lot more to go on here. So first thing you're gonna notice is the massive screen. It's a lot closer to you. It's more like a tablet. It is that sort of glass like a smartphone, which is great. And it is just a quick, very, you know, modern system. In fact, we used to say that the old system, we were kind of behind the competition, and all we wanted to do was be up there with the competition, and now we're actually a little bit in front, which is really great to see. So I love that new system. I do miss having the option of the remote touch, because then I don't actually have to put fingerprints on the screen, but I find once you set it up, you're not really touching the screen a whole lot anyway. Just sort of like using your voice or the steering wheel controls, etc. So that's great. We have some piano black here in the center, the new shifter, which is right out of like a Lexus LC, for instance, and a whole lot less buttons going on here. I've always said that new modern luxury cars is more about simplicity than decorating the dash and a whole bunch of buttons. And they did a good job there. The drive mode switch is sort of like hidden in the trim here, so it's not, you know, super obvious. And there's a few more drive mode buttons here as well. We have a wireless charger, which works absolutely great. So just put your phone in there. And you can even stash your phone away if you wanted to. And there is a little bit of storage underneath as well. And we have the new USB-C as well as the previous USB. So there is options for both, which is great. The armrest opens from both sides. So we've seen that trickling down. Again, that started with the Lexus LS and then, you know, went into the ES and the UX, and now pretty much the whole lineup has that, which is great. And then the overall fit and finish. I'm very happy to say that, you know, I just like when automotive brands don't go backwards in terms of quality or try to cheapen things up. They go forward. So even the way the steering wheel feels, the perforation is grippier. It seems to have more substance to it. The details, even in the F-Sport logo, and sort of even the spots that you don't touch, are all very, very nice. And this one is the F-Sport Series 2 package, so it's not even the fully loaded, and we already have a heads-up display. And because of the heads-up display, we have the new sort of smart touch, customizable steering wheel controls. And then even the cruise control is just one button now instead of the switch where you have to go up and down and then click radar, all that stuff. It's very simplistic and super, super easy. So again, we've condensed a lot of those buttons into the actual smart interface, and the gauge cluster itself is a night and day difference from that last model. So now we just have sort of everything right in the center with, you know, fuel and temperature and stuff like that on the sides. It's all customizable. It's a very high def TFT display with lots of information that you can see there. And it feels way higher end than that previous one. However, if you like a true needle instead of a digital one, you would have to go with the old NX for sure. Surrounding that, we have just some piano black, nothing too crazy. I already mentioned the heads-up display. Not a ton of buttons to the left here. Some really nice new accents. So there's less chrome and silver on the interior of the new one and way more piano black and like grays. So this is kind of like an artsy looking gray trim here on the door panel. And then to get out is the new electronic door latch, which I love. The seats themselves do feel a little bit wider. I have had a lot of guests say that, especially for people who are bigger than me, the old seats felt too cramped, where these ones seem to sort of fit the build. And actually, as I'm sitting here, I realize the cabin itself feels bigger. I don't know if that's just the way they've designed the center and the dash, or if actually it is, but it feels bigger. It feels a lot less claustrophobic, which is really great. And for the first time in an NX, we have a panoramic sunroof. And you don't even have to go fully loaded to get it. Most of the middle packages get it. So this one's an F-Sport Series 2. Even the luxury package has it, and that's the middle on the other lineup. And it's really nice having that panoramic glass, especially for the rear passengers. And that's pretty much it. I could ramble on longer, but I'm not going to. Okay, so sitting in the back of the new 2024, not a whole lot has changed back here in terms of amenities. I think maybe the size just a little bit, but just to give you an overview, we have a few USB-Cs down at the bottom. We have a speaker sort of right here in the top of the door panel with that new trim. It is electronic door handles on the rear seats as well. So just because it's for passengers doesn't mean that they don't get that. Center armrest with some cup holders in it. And again, everything's kind of just trimmed in the piano black. The panoramic sunroof really is nice for the rear passengers. So it does create a little bit more light. It does seem to open up the cabin space a little bit. The NX isn't a huge vehicle, especially in the back seat. I mean, I fit, but it's not like it's known to be, you know, a family hauler as much as like the RX would be. And that panoramic really opens up the rear seat. So if you're claustrophobic or anybody in your family doesn't like sitting in the back seat, the panoramic roof I think will help that for sure. Okay, so in terms of differences between the two powertrains, the new one has 275 horsepower versus the old 235. But it feels even faster than that because now we have an 8-speed transmission versus the old 6-speed. And even just with that, the new torque, the bigger engine, I find the new one, even though it looks bigger and feels a bit bigger, it also feels more agile, and the power delivery seems to be a little bit more early and also has a bit better fuel economy. So even though most of the ones that are projected to sell are gonna be in the hybrid variant, I think the turbocharged 2.4 350 is still gonna be a big seller, just like the 300 was when the previous generation was new. So just to recap, the main differences are going to be a little bit of the styling, definitely the multimedia and the technology on the new one. However, the previous one does still have a little bit of those creature comforts and, you know, a little bit more of that analog display and, you know, buttons and stuff like that, a little bit less tech savvy. Both are great choices, obviously, but let me know in the comments below what you like more, the new NX350 or the previous generation NX300. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Lexus related content, or let us know in the comments below if there's anything other comparison wise or any other video content you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.